Hello and welcome to another Kyle Connor YouTube channel video. You join me where we are actually bringing the Sprinter on this channel for the first time. This has been our 2022 Winnebago Revel. It's sort of an adventure Sprinter van. We got the extended diesel tanks on the back. I have the owl racks. Maybe sometime I'll take you through a tour of all the upgrades we've done with this thing. We have the Nokian Outpost AT tires on it with some black Rhino cool looking wheels, I think. And so fully kitted out Sprinter. But one thing I didn't realize when I bought this was how much it sucks to own a Sprinter in Colorado. Look, I fully expected that the Winnebago stuff would suck. Getting it serviced at RV dealers and dealing with that whole world, that is just a disaster, no question. But the Winnebago service center doesn't actually work on the chassis, which would be, anything mechanical to move it, engine, maintenance intervals, things like that. And that means you rely on the Mercedes-Benz service network here in Colorado, which is probably, and I've owned a lot of cars, a lot of different automakers, including Tesla, which is known for a bad rap for service. I cannot tell you how bad of an experience it has been for the almost 2 years I've owned this thing, to the point where I can't recommend anyone to buy a Sprinter in Colorado because just a multitude of issues. So let me walk you through the most expensive oil change I've ever had in my life, tell you why I didn't do it myself. But then there's also some positives here. Part of this service visit actually fixed a major problem with this that I wasn't expecting. So it's some mostly bad and some light at the end of the tunnel. To take you on a little tour, this is my 2022 Winnebago Revel. What's interesting is the chassis is actually a 2020. It was built like the last day of 2020. So, Nears makes a difference of 2021. As far as I'm aware, 2021's never made it to the US. I think they skipped from 2020 chassis to 2022 Sprinter chassis. Either way, they're really hard to get and really high demand. And, we were really lucky that we got this Revel. I ordered it. We waited for it. I went to the factory in Iowa and picked it up. And one thing I thought was really nice was because Winnebago and Mercedes have a deal, the warranty start date didn't start until I actually took delivery of the Revel. We used it stock for a while and then started the upgrade process. We took it to Alaska. We needed more storage. I've busted the exhaust pipe now off-roading, so I want to get the exhaust pipe that goes out the back. We just need to make sure not to idle it too long. I never idle it anyway, so it's fine. And it's just been a wonderful piece of kit to have. But I haven't really been able to use it for the last few months because we've been due on service. Inside, it definitely needs a deep clean, but essentially, to give you an idea, there's a bed, there's a kitchen, there's a refrigerator, a shower and toilet, a little lounge area. I can stand up perfectly in here, and it's really everything I need to be self-sufficient. The bed can actually go to the roof. We can fit some dirt bikes in the back, and it is just a useful tool. I considered selling it during the height of COVID. I bought it just before the prices went crazy. Not to say I didn't spend a lot of money on it. The sticker price on this one's Nears makes no difference, $200,000. I paid about $150,000, just under. And I probably could have sold it for 160, 170 during the peak values. And I decided not to. I said, you know what? I love this thing. We're going to use it. There's really no alternative on the market that would work for us. I like the short wheelbase Sprinter, the 144 inch versus the 177 inch chassis because it's better for off-roading. You can see we have the lifted 4x4 version. We get it dirty, we use it. But I will say just owning this in Colorado has been so frustrating. So let's sit down. Let me walk you through the service history on this, how this has all gone, and why it's such a problem owning a Sprinter in Colorado. So you join me inside the Sprinter now with essentially a $1,600 bill for a regularly scheduled maintenance interval. The price is ridiculous, and I guess we should touch on that in a minute. But I first want to talk about the main reason that owning a Sprinter in Colorado sucks ass. There's no other way of saying it. Like, it really is terrible. The dealer network here, first of all, dealers in general really are, you find some good ones, you find some bad ones. I find the Mercedes dealers in particular, at least here in our market, are really out there to screw over the customer. Now, look, I'm not just saying that because I hate dealers. I review cars for a living. I try and have an objective approach. But as soon as I start seeing $100,000 over sticker for an AMG, 50,000 over for just a regular, GLC, I'm like, oh, okay, that's the kind of dealership we're working with. So then I go to a different dealer here in Colorado and I'm like, oh my God, it's the same thing. And that's just our market. It's really like LA has always kind of been like that, where you get screwed over when you buy an expensive AMG there because everyone wants G-Wagons and, whatever. But here in Colorado, it hasn't been like that. It's not the way to retain good customers. And so I find that the sales side of it, that's a topic for another day. I would never recommend you pay for a vehicle that's over sticker at all. Just walk away. There's plenty of used cars you can buy at sticker. Just don't buy them over sticker. That's my recommendation, especially now that the market's softening. But they had a deal on a G-Wagon 4x4 squared. It was only $150,000 over MSRP, and that's low compared to LA prices, but still just crazy. And they're like, well, people are paying them. So it's not the dealer's fault. It's the people who are paying over sticker for these things. But if you got to have the car, you got to have the car. So yeah, owning the Sprinter. This is a problem for many Sprinter owners in Colorado. The first major thing is the service availability. I live here in Fort Collins in northern Colorado. My local dealership, Mercedes-Benz of Loveland, we've called them and said, hey, we just need an oil change. Don't need anything else, just an oil change. I like to change the oil every 10,000 miles in the Sprinter. Mercedes recommends every 20. I'm like, this thing lives at wide open throttle. I'm towing with it all the time. We're hard on it. I want to accelerate my maintenance cycle to compensate for the driving style of the vehicle. And they're like, first of all, arguing with me that I don't need an oil change, which I'm like, okay, but I'm paying you for an oil change, so change the oil, please. And then secondly, they're like, it's a 6-month wait for any service. And that's a bit scary because if we have anything that goes wrong in this van, our local service center, their whole parking lot's full of vans. It's like they have no techs that are Mercedes-Benz van certified for some reason. And, it's 6 months if something breaks on this. So then I'm like, okay, well, let me start calling around to different dealers. And I called up Mercedes-Benz of Westminster, who did this service appointment. And they said the same thing. It's about 5 months, to get in for service over there. And this is in early 2023. We actually made the appointment in 2022. And I was like, okay, well, I guess put us on the list for the next available. And then right as soon as they were about to hang up, they said, oh, wait, what do you actually need done? I'm like, well, that seems like a logical thing. I just need an oil change. And they're like, oh, we actually do basic Sprinter service on the weekends every Saturday. And I said, great. When's the next one? They said, okay, just a couple weeks and we'll get you in. So that's pretty reasonable. But again, that doesn't help us if anything is wrong with the Sprinter. This is just basic maintenance, which thankfully is all we needed. The Sprinter's been very reliable to us. Had a couple little check engine lights and weird things pop up, but some resets later, we're good. So I go in there and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of just want an oil change, but it's due for the technical service B interval. So what does that entail? And they're like, well, it does a whole bunch of stuff. We'd recommend you do it. And you can tell the dealership is fudging a little bit of the manufacturer recommended service schedules, because service B should just be a set list of items, but the dealer has like a good, better, best. And they really made it so confusing with this chart to figure out what you're getting, what you're not getting, because some of the things didn't line up. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go for, I want the service B service record. I kind of want to see what a general owner would go through anyway. I saw the pricing. It was $1,307 for that. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm ever going to do it, they retighten some stuff and I'm just like, I'm here, it's in. I don't ever want to do this again. Just do the service B. That way, when I go to sell it, my theory was, at least I have the accelerated oil changes and I have the approved Mercedes servicing schedule. So I did this from a resale value perspective because I don't imagine I'll own this forever. More so than this is how I would actually maintain something I was keeping forever. A lot of this is unnecessary. And it's, $200 fuel filters, $237 fuel filter. They put in additives in the tank. They inspect hoses and lines. They tighten some things. And I'm like, okay, well, that all seems annoying, but within the realm of reason. $1,300 seems very expensive. And so really the service experience itself was hilarious. I pull it in to drop it off, and I'm going in, I'm trying to be the easiest customer. I'm just like, here's my Sprinter van, service B, thanks so much. And then the guys there, not anything against them, but it was like a total fluster. They like didn't know how to do it. I'm like, you've been a service advisor for how long? And like, you're messing up the computer systems, you running back to the van. And that's nothing on the dealership. That was just, I think that particular individual was having a bad day. I don't want to call him out. He was a really nice guy, but it just seemed to me like this was the easiest thing you could do at a service center. And it was like the biggest hardship. And I just was getting a kick out of it. I thought it was really funny. But, super nice to the guy. He mentioned there were some software updates for the van. And that had me intrigued because I really like getting software updates, getting the newest stuff on all of my vehicles. Crazy that it's not over the air on a brand new Mercedes product, but we know the Germans are behind in tech compared to Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid and others. So that's not unexpected. And, one of the problems with the Sprinter in Colorado, another reason I've really hated actually driving this vehicle here, is there's a really huge lag, especially at high elevation. These things do not like to boost up. And especially when the engines are cold, they almost don't move. I can't tell you how many times we've been camping in this. We get the van set in a perfect spot, and then we need to just get out of our spot and just drive up a small hill. So, start it, let it idle for 5 minutes, warm up. I have the thing in 4x4 low range even just to give it all the help because I know this is an issue. And then I sit there at wide open throttle on a cold engine and nothing happens. It just, revs just start coming up slowly. And then eventually you get a huge wallop of torque. And it's just the most frustrating thing to drive at elevation. You bring it to sea level, and yeah, you still get this wallop of torque that, everyone claims there's fixes to. I've driven, I don't think there is. I've never seen real proof of a true wallop fix. If you go wide open throttle to the floor, this thing does nothing, and then wham, slams you with acceleration. So all those pedal boxes, tuning boxes, my impression from experiencing them is no matter what, if you put in 100% throttle request, none of them do anything different from stock. It seems like a waste of money to me because I can modulate the throttle. I can go wide open throttle and back off with my foot. That's how I drive it. But there was a software update for the engine control unit for emissions, and it, is software update. Open campaign for, I think it's 2022-12-0009. I believe that's the one. There was also a park lock function, but basically there is an update for seemingly a few thousand vans. I looked it up online. Mine fell into the category to update the engine control operating procedure to factory specs, which I'm like, great, that's good. I cannot tell you how much of a difference this software update made. It was it was a free update because it's a warranty claim. The vehicle's still under warranty. And it transforms the way it drives. The shifts are smoother. The power modulation is smoother. There's still, of course, some wallop getting off the line. There's only so much you can do with a turbocharged diesel engine. But this new Mercedes ECU profile really changes the way the Sprinter drives. I couldn't be happier with that. So to sort of wrap up this video, owning a Sprinter in Colorado sucks because you're completely out of luck if something breaks. They're just months wait at a dealer. To schedule service appointment, you may as well schedule the next one when the first one completes. And you're really left at the mercy of, I would say, in my experience, very poor Mercedes dealership ownership experience. And it's a shame because the cars are great. I, review Mercedes-Benz all the time. I thought this was really funny. I asked the guy, if I had an EQS or an EQE, one of their electric vehicles, what does the service B consist of at their dealership and how much does it cost? And they said, oh, we don't charge you any different for an electric car. We would charge you every 10 or 20,000 miles, another $1,300, $1,600, $2,100 in some cases for service. And they just don't need that. It's just a cash grab. And that's not unlike any other dealership before, but it really makes me appreciate owning my Tesla. Surprisingly, for how good that service experience is. I schedule something on the app. They come to my house to fix it, or I drive it down the road to Loveland. Usually available in just a couple of days. The car's usually in and out in just a day if it needs anything, which it very rarely does. And that's the future. So to everyone ragging on Tesla for poor service, I just haven't experienced it. I've had some issues, of course, some little niggles, but I've never experienced the horrors that most Tesla owners talk about. And for me, it's been by far the best experience out of any car I've owned. So there you go. The total bill. The only thing I tacked on to the Service B was the brake fluid flush. Up here in the mountains, we do get the brake fluid hot. I like to do brake fluid every 2 years. The van's 2 years old now, so I did a brake fluid flush. $1,619 in total. That is the cost of the Service B base tier with just an added brake fluid flush. I think from now on, we're just going to be doing basic oil changes. And honestly, I'll probably just do them myself. I don't have the hub is still being worked on. That is in progress and hopefully happening sooner than you think. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that's all moving along great. But I just have no way to actually maintain this vehicle in my own driveway. It's heavy. It's, just not super easy, but soon I'll have a way. We'll make some videos about it, but that's an update on my recent Sprinter service experience. Thankfully, they do maintenance on Saturday, so that's a trick if you own a Sprinter in Colorado. But wow, Mercedes is building a great product, and their dealers, unfortunately, in my experience, are completely letting the consumers down to the point where I would never recommend someone to go through that buying or servicing experience. Imagine some older folks who don't understand electric cars buy a Mercedes EQE and they're like, oh yeah, every 2 years you're going to need $2,000 worth of service. That is just not the case. There are some things that they need. Of course, tires, brakes should be checked. Even though it's a blended brake system, you should get new fluid in there. But man, it just felt like such a ripoff, such a poor experience. And just sitting in the dealership waiting room for, however long it took them to do all this, 5-6 hours, something like that, just felt miserable. So sorry to complain, but I hope it's a cautionary tale that, like, if you're going to own a Sprinter in Colorado, be prepared for terrible service. And there you go. Very expensive Service B. Visit for, I included all the screenshots for basically some checks and some filters and an oil change. Oh, this was the worst part. I still have to call them to end the video. They didn't even fix everything. In here, they say they check coolant. They do all this stuff. Every time I start the van, the low coolant light is still on. So if that's the case, how am I to know that they checked all of the other things they put on here? I doubt they did. That's my impression. I'm left with the impression that they did not check anything that it says on here because it says they checked coolant. I specifically mentioned the coolant light was on to them as well, and I still have the coolant light on startup. So just bad experience all around. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. You can all make fun of me for spending way too much to maintain the Sprinter, and I probably won't be doing that again. Thanks again. Bye-bye.